Welcome back, all you beautiful people of Hexaco. Welcome back, Hex Tribe. Today, we're going to talk about the absolute carnage and chaos that's been going on during the blood moon, full moon, and during a lunar eclipse, of all things. So I was thinking to myself, what better guest to have on during times like this? Some of the most volatile times that also are some of the most synchronistic. With our friend Waters Above, he's been a guest that a lot of you have requested to come back. So I'd like you guys to welcome Waters Above.
Thank you so much for having me on again, brother. It's great to come back here and collaborate with you again.
Always a pleasure, man. Let's just say hi to people in the chat really quick. What's up, Koss? What's up, Jack? Jack out of the box. Wow. Donald Pump. Love that name. Courtney G. Sir Khan. That truth will set you free. Donald Pump. That might be my favorite name so far. Let's see. GB. What's going on? Jack Perez. Mr. Jansen. Chaotic Creations. What's up, Johnny? How you doing? Susie. Hot Rollins. Guys, trickle in here as we get started, but in this video we're going to talk about what's going on. We're going to try to get a sense of why all this stuff is happening and what can you do about it. How can you stay safe and weather the storm in times like this? Because with FTX going down, Binance, FUD all over the place, lawsuits left and right. What's your take on all this, Waters? How are you feeling during all this?
I'm feeling amazing. Yeah, it's been great. We've been looking out for this specific week for, over 6 months now. I've even spoken about this total lunar eclipse a year ago. So my community, people have been paying attention to my work. We've been well prepared. I talk about this. I've been talking about it a lot more than usual lately in my podcasts and my live streams, and of course any YouTube videos that I put out. So yeah, and I've had a lot of people from your community from past times that we've connected come over to my work, and they've started to pay attention to spread it into the Hex community. I've even seen more people in the Hex community giving my work shout outs, and it's kind of like, it's influencing them to take some other ideas into consideration regarding why this market is the way that it is. So it's beautiful now to be here today and open up my emails, and over the past 2 days it's just flooding in with people sharing what's going on for them. We've been seeing successful trades, some people making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on trades shorting this market. So it's just beautiful. It's really great to see a small community of people who've been prepared, and now they're not.
Sorry.
No, it's great to see this small group of people who are happy right now, and they're actually like feeling good about what's going on, whilst the majority of retail investors are just in an endless loop of depression. And it's sad to say, but if you were paying attention and you were aware, you kind of could see this eventually about to happen. And whatever they start to blame, whether that's the shit going on with FTX or like whatever, that's exactly how the market maker sets this all up. They give the people something to focus on, stay distracted, and then we've been prepared all along.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps to stay open-minded enough to get some of these new ideas in. I think there's been a lot of cross-pollination between both of our communities in terms of just being prepared for the worst. And that's why a lot of us in the Hex ecosystem, the Hex tribe, we're not as upset. I mean, there's always the vocal minority that's going to be loud and upset and all that. But what we're trying to do is calm the people down. I mean, tell everyone not only is it going to be okay, but here's what you can do to position yourself and literally reframe how you look at the world around you during times like this. Not only are these buying opportunities, but you could probably see them coming as well. And I remember last time we talked, I talk about Hex, obviously, and PulseChain right behind me, but we were talking about your projections based off of, all kinds of stuff, gematria, moon cycles and Shemitah cycles and all that stuff. You almost predicted to a T where the bottom of Hex was going to be, and how we wicked down to 2.5 cents and we stayed at 3 cents, which has essentially been our bottom for the past 2 months. And I've never seen a coin go as crazily sideways. We just had another wick down from a big seller, wicked us back down to 2.5 cents, and then right back up to 3.3 cents. From just a fundamental market analysis standpoint, it sure does look like there's not a whole lot of bears left in the Hex ecosystem, which kind of has tended to lead the market. We topped before Bitcoin. I believe we're also bottoming before Bitcoin. But if you just look at the chart and the way the candles are and the way that volatility has contracted, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of sell pressure. I believe that all the people that wanted to sell for the most part have. And now, even when a crazy big dip happens from a big whale that wants out because he's fighting himself out or herself out, the fact that it gets eaten back up by so many limit orders, so many real hexagon dollar cost averagers buying the dip type of people, those are people with conviction on a multi-year time scale. And so those people have just been waiting for that dip and are probably still waiting. So just the lack of activity, the lack of volatility, and the fact that even if there is a big seller, that not a bunch of minnows pile on and make it worse. And I'm talking about HEX in particular. That shows a lot of remarkable strength to me because, you know, typically when a whale dumps, everyone else gets scared. And that's what we're seeing in things like FTX today. Some big people get liquidated and then the market freaks out because they have no idea what's going on. I didn't even realize that the FTT token was so hyperinflated. I didn't even realize that they were using it on their books as part of their company's valuation, which is just poor business practice, among other things like lending out customers funds. You know, I think Brian Armstrong has the right approach when he says that companies should always have a 1-for-1 reserve and not be fiddling around with their customers' funds. Those reserves should be there and they should not be lent out to Alameda Research or whoever it may be that's doing, you know, crazy risky stuff in DeFi or not in DeFi that we just have no idea about and it's a black box. So what's your take on all this stuff, dude?
Well, yeah, you brought up a couple things. First and foremost, on November 6th, I released a podcast over on my Patreon. It's called my Red Pill Podcast. And every single week, I actually cover the altcoins. So if people come to my YouTube channel, you might only see me cover Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. And I've actually given full YouTube videos to HEX. But on that podcast that I did, podcast number 84, I called it the Lunar Eclipse Special. It came out one day before the actual lunar eclipse, and I covered HEX. And something I said about HEX in that technical analysis was I anticipated to go down to 022. And literally the next day, within 24 hours, it wicked all the way through that level. So if anyone paid attention to that episode and they had orders preset, regardless of like the speed of how it all went down, you would have had those orders picked up. And I was calling that the selling climax. And that comes back to when me and you first connected, where I was talking to your community about Wyckoff method and technical analysis. And I brought up the chart of HEX and I was just kind of walking everyone through it. Yeah, we got that initial move. But then I remember telling you very open-mindedly that there is more room to go. And when I was sharing that, it was about that 2 cent range, as you brought up. And when we look at that move that happened just a couple of days ago, we're seeing an absorption effect, which you kind of just broke down. And that's a great sign. That's typical on a selling climax, and that's typical on a spring. So just to give your audience a little bit of a basic rundown here, first and foremost, you don't need to learn charts. You don't need to learn TA. But if you do want to, you will have a leg up in this market. And the best way to do it would be with Wyckoff method, because you don't need to use all the fancy indicators and all the, you don't need to pay for any programs or anything like that. It's literally as simple as just looking at chart structure. And I like to call Wyckoff method the market compass. Once you have a compass, you kind of have an idea of the direction that you're facing. You have an idea of where you are. So that's what's so powerful about that method. And it's over 100 years old. So it's not some new idea, that it's not reinventing the wheel. It's something that's tried and true over a century. And I used it for cryptocurrency, and it's been working for me brilliantly alongside my more esoteric analysis, where I start to add in things like gematria, numerology, astrology, etc. So anyways, with HEX, I was anticipating a full 95% correction. And to get that, I would call that my selling climax or my spring, which is just the biggest capitulation, where you have the most panic selling and the biggest volatile. And those are obviously moments that many people freak out. Retail investors go running. But when we're seeing these absorption candles like we see on the one that just happened, that's great. And it's right back into that support range, somewhere around 3 cents, like you mentioned. That quick buyback is a sign that like the selling pressure is exhausted, and that is very positive. That means we're pretty much at the bottom for this particular chart. So in my podcast, I even said that like at those levels of getting back into 2 cents, that I would even consider building a HEX position. So I don't own any HEX, and I've been very vocal about not owning any. And it was mostly because of where we were when I learned about it. I learned about it at a time that I knew there would be more downside. So of course, I'm not going to just blindly invest. I invest based on my own investment thesis. But That is actually an opportunity for me to turn this back around to you, because in that podcast, I asked openly to my community, well, what is the investment opportunity here? Is it Hex token, or is it something else that's connected to them? Because I don't understand really the technology. I'm not really too, like, I'm a technical analyst. That's what my specialty is. I'm a trader, and I help people develop their own investment thesis. I'm not like a student of blockchain technology and learning the ins and outs of, when I talked with this one guy, Randy Hilarski, he just knew so much about all of the machinations of Hex as an
Mhm.
actual technology. And I know you're aware too, and I'm just not. So
Yeah.
I'm at a place right now where I'm like super open-minded, and I might even build like a 2 to 5% position in Hex. Is it Hex token that is the like the focus here, or is it PulseX? Like what's going on here?
Yeah, it's always been the focus for me. And I agree with you on the technical analysis standpoint. A lot of that stuff is just fluff. A lot of people overdo it. I'm curious to ask you later about Wyckoff and see if we can actually show an example of that. But to get into the technical side of why I'm so excited, why so many people are excited about Hex, is that it's a product that's truly immutable. So the code actually can't be faked. Or can't be rug pulled. There's no back doors for any admin to get in it. It's true decentralization the way crypto is supposed to be. And the point of cryptocurrency, the point of all this was to remove middlemen with their corrupt banking hours, with their corrupt, poor, shitty customer service.
Yeah.
They pay you pitifully low interest rates if you lock your money up at a bank. Crypto was invented to remove all that stuff and to put the money and the power back into your own hands with digital, self-sovereign, free, borderless, peer-to-peer money. That was the innovation. I mean, before digital scarcity came out on the internet with Bitcoin, you can copy and paste things all day long. The real innovation with Bitcoin was here's some verifiable, e-gold, you could say, that
Hmm.
you can't copy. You can't just copy and paste it. And so we could talk about solving the Byzantine generals problem and stuff, but I don't think anybody really cares about that anymore. It's just
Right.
about knowing that your money is safe from the powers that be, from the Fed virtually devaluing your money every day with inflation. Inflation is basically theft. It's legal theft by devaluing your purchasing power, and it's a tax that nobody will tell you about. So when we have to get inflation under control, what better way to get it under control than just exit the system altogether into an alternative financial system? And that's what we're in right now, is the biggest wealth transfer in human history. And Hex is playing a big role in ushering in kind of the new era of being a store of value, but that lives within a DeFi decentralized world. So Bitcoin is a store of value. It was a store of value, and that's totally fine. It can continue to be, and it paved the way. And Bitcoin walked so that Hex could run, right? So Hex is exactly like Bitcoin, but instead of paying miners to sell the price down, we pay stakers to hold the price up. There's price positive feedback loop dynamics built into the code, which I get into in all my previous videos. But long story short, you lock it up, you make more yield in the future. And so because it pays you to actually hold the price up, we pay stakers instead of miners. This is one less negative externality, and it makes for a really solid foundational store of value currency on the Ethereum blockchain today. And it's moving over to the PulseChain blockchain because, long story short, fees on Ethereum are just too damn high. I mean, we
Yeah.
can't be at the whim of the 5 or 6 developers that decide to raise the S-load function on the Ethereum blockchain. So we're making our own walled garden with PulseChain, which is that coin you see on my upper left-hand side. That's where that's where Hex's new home is going to essentially be. That's the new set of railroad tracks that's going to allow for, really cheap, really fast transactions. And of course, it's the world's largest airdrop because we're copying the entire Ethereum system state as a means of bootstrapping adoption and getting people excited, both retail and developers. Like, developers don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can still use all their same code, all their same smart contracts are already deployed on PulseChain. So if it fits their needs better, they can just point their front ends to a new network and not have to change anything at all. Not to mention, all the users now have double their coins on both networks. And obviously, most of these coins are going to be worthless on PulseChain, but some might have value. And it's at least a way for them to go play around and learn how to use new networks, because we shouldn't be so confined into just a one network ecosystem.
Hmm.
And I know there's layer twos and all that stuff, but we're a little too early for the layer twos, in my opinion, when it comes down to the user experience. So world's biggest airdrop is going to increase onboarding and adoption for not only developers, but retail alike. And it's going to reduce friction. It's going to reduce the cost that it takes to onboard a new user. Because right now, today, if you try to get into Ethereum with gas fees and everything, you could take $100 into Ethereum and only be left with 70 by the time you've bought your coin, swapped it, and major
It's like
stakes.
using a European ATM.
Yeah, it's awful. It's like
It's
using a
like
Bitcoin ATM.
by the time you're done with like getting your 100 euros, like you're literally down to like $65.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. And if we're trying, like, the goal of HEX and PulseChain is really to adopt the whole entire world into crypto, but we need to
Mm,
make an asset that's attractive and worth holding. And how do you make it attractive? Well, you admit that the only reason people buy this stuff right now, the primary reason, maybe not the only reason, is for speculation because they think the price is going to go up. So yeah, these coins have a utility value and a speculative value, but in pretty much all of them, I believe, the speculation value is probably 90% or more of the total value of the coin. And the utility value is a very small part of it. But your coin does need to have utility, and HEX does. HEX has utility in that it replaces a $10 trillion market, which is the CD market, right? So in
yeah.
the US and China alone, CDs are worth about $10 trillion. Worldwide, this is a precedent that we know works. This is a financial vehicle that we know works. So HEX is a replication of that. It's not really the same as a CD at all because there's no middleman. It's literally just code that's running for you. You lock up your HEX, and the algorithm within the HEX smart contract makes you new HEX upon unstaking that. But when you talk about product market fit, well, nobody had ever addressed. I mean, if Bitcoin is digital gold, why had nobody made the digital CD yet? And so that's what HEX decided to be, is the digital CD. So it's got product market fit. It's got dynamics that are attractive to hold because you can make yield trustlessly, and trustless yield is one of the biggest innovations with HEX. You can't make yield trustlessly on Bitcoin. You have to give it away to the very middlemen that Bitcoin was invented to save you from. And then they lose it and they get hacked all the time. And FTX goes down, just like we saw the other day. Binance has a $500 million bridge hack. $3 billion has been lost in bridges alone in the past year due to hacks. It's a minefield out there, and you're going to get totally destroyed if you don't buy audited, secure, no admin key, decentralized protocols like HEX. And so HEX is one of the very few DeFi protocols that I actually trust because it was designed with all the parameters that I like to see in a cryptocurrency. Now, there's other ones too. Uniswap was huge, massive for the space. I love Uniswap. I'm happy the concept of a decentralized exchange exists. I like Tornado Cash. I hate what they did with Tornado Cash, but I hope that people fork that code, because if we can innovate faster than they can regulate, we're going to be okay. That's just my stance on that whole thing.
Yeah.
But
you made a good point. Like you were talking about the speculation. You're talking about, like, basically, like, just to sum up what you were saying about that is people want to put money into something and then get more money out of it at another, like, at a later date, hopefully as soon as possible. But like speculation, that whole like concept is like 10 times more important than the utility, because how many people can sell that story that you just shared year round, and we could continue to see the value drop substantially. So this is kind of what I think what you're saying is awesome. The fact that you're so aware of it, it allows you to build a very sophisticated investment thesis and to help so many people.
But look,
ultimately,
once you've got all the technical things here, once you've got all the technical aspects down, true decentralization, no backdoors, real, not your keys, not your coins. After that, it's all just a battle of narrative memes. So we're all just competing for narrative memes. We just chose a narrative that worked in the real world, and it's working for people today in HEX as well, because it did a 10,000x return in the last bull market. Even after a 90% dip, a 90% dip from 10,000x is still 1,000x, which is why you see a lot of really happy people that got into HEX that are still, either, if they're not break even, they're actually still in profit. And the ones that aren't are seeing the future a little bit. They're looking into the next bull wave and seeing, well, how many X's, even if we do an order of magnitude less, let's say we only do 1,000x from bottom to top in the next bull market, there's still enough meat on the bone for a lot of people to make a lot of money if you're dollar cost averaging and buying the dips in the bear market, which is the time to do so, if you have the same set of beliefs that this will be successful and this is all part of one big cycle, right? Which I know you believe in the cycles too.
Well, it's obvious. And I mean, it's nothing new. It's been going on since the creation of the stock market. And all people have to do is open up their eyes and look at a chart, and they could see that. You know, everything has been cyclical on a 7-year cycle. And every 7 cycles of 7 years, on the 50th year, there's a huge change in the world. And here we are. We're literally right there. We're on the Jubilee cycle. So this is a beautiful time to be focused and to have an investment thesis that is based around where you stand financially, consciously, like in all regards. Like, this is not a time to fuck around with your money, but this is a really great time to consider stashing away some money for investments. And whether you start deploying that today or you give it some time, it's kind of, you know, it's up to where you stand on things. But we're about to see things like job security become obviously
Yeah, was it
theory.
half of
We're
Twitter
gonna
fired, half of Facebook fired?
we're
So
gonna
much
see
for
the
that
layoffs
low
start coming in.
unemployment rate.
Yeah, we're gonna start seeing that all come in, and that was one thing that I mentioned. I was telling people that the U.S. is not technically in recession until we start seeing it affect the jobs, and now we're starting to see
When
that.
did they
So
change that definition? Because the definition of
they
recession
don't,
used to
they
be 2
don't,
quarters in a row, and
yeah,
we've
they
had
don't change. They don't change definitions, and like my joke about this is like it's like taking dietary advice from a fat doctor. Like
yeah.
when we use definitions that are created by economists, it's like we're allowing the people who created psyops and scams to control the way that you know, how you develop your own investment thesis. So I don't give a shit what economists talk about. They lie. They don't know anything about anything. If people actually were prosperous from following their advice, we would not be seeing such chaos in markets. So why is it that so few people are successful investors? Well, because there's so few truth and people don't want to take action at the right time. They want to buy during the FOMO times and then they want to sell during when everyone's fearful. So again, like if you go to the news at a time where the market is down, they're going to perpetuate fear onto you from those same, streams. It's obvious by now that people just need to learn how to have like an inverse behavior to whatever it is that the people on mainstream media are telling you.
It's like the inverse Kramer index, right? It's like
Right. Yeah. Like if you listen to people like that, you would never make you would never become prosperous in this world.
now I've heard a theory like where the Fed, everyone's looking for the Fed to pivot as their signal for, oh, this is the bottom. Now we can finally do the bull market again. But first of all, it's not just night and day. You don't just flip a switch and start going up and to the right, right? It's a long, drawn out, boring process. But the Fed looking to raise interest rates and looking for signals that it should lower the rate of change of raising. I think they're looking towards this unemployment number. And this was an idea that Richard Hart put out. They might be looking towards unemployment numbers and kind of fixing the system so that once these unemployment numbers go higher, basically once more people get fired and lose their jobs, you now have an excuse to turn back the federal funds rate without something as heavy as, God forbid, like World War III,
Sure. I mean, the way that I'm playing it is 100% esoteric. So whatever I hear the Federal Reserve say, I'm like, I literally just put the mute on. I have no energy for it. And I get
Yeah.
that like I know a lot of people like it, but for me, like I know when the bottom's in. I know when the market's going to recover. Like for me, it's all about the lunar and solar phases. And right now we're at the lunar eclipse energy. This could last us till pretty much the end of Q4. I see this market recovering into May through July of 2023. And I do not think that the stock market is going to be fully recovered until perhaps like 2024. But crypto just moves much faster. And because we're talking about crypto and I cover cryptocurrency, that's really where I'm putting my energy. So for me, like this dip we're getting right now is such a beautiful opportunity because what's to come in regards to that relief rally is going to happen fast. It's going to be violent. It's going to be isolated away from the traditional markets. It's going to be confusing as fuck. They're going to give you all these reasons as to why it's happening. And all along, it's just because we switched into a solar energy. And this has everything to do with the eclipses that happen in May of 2023.
It's funny. It's like all news, even good news in a bear market is still bad news, right? And so the price can go up or down, and that will shape the narrative of the news the next day. So I agree with you when you say don't bother looking up with whatever the news narrative is. I tend to look at more fundamental things, but let's go esoteric, right? This is your wheelhouse. This is your expertise, right? I would love if crypto crashed first, just like HEX preceded Bitcoin. Bitcoin preceded the rest of the market when everything dumped. In my mind, as a more fundamental guy, I just figure, well, in common sense, if times are tough and things are hard, well, what's the first thing you're going to dump if you got to pay for your bills and put food on the table, right? You're going to sell your crypto because that's not doing anything for you. And it's the most esoteric to you, right? You don't care about that really when shit hits the fan. It's not really an inflation hedge. It was always just speculation. It always has been, the meme.
Yep.
So
and it'll continue to be for a long time.
I hope so. And I hope it bottoms before everything too, because I hope it's a nice indicator that we can go back up again.
The cat is like lunar eclipse.
She can feel it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. I've been trying to let people know that a lot of this market is still in an ultra speculative phase. Like look at Tesla stock, look at Amazon, like it's all just look at Facebook and Meta, right? That's a great example. It's all bullshit. Everything they tell you on television is the opposite. Like just listen to what they say, and when they're happy and positive, that's a great time to fucking sell. And the same thing in reverse, you know? So it's becoming easier and easier for me, because what I've been doing with my work, and perhaps this could kind of give a looking glass into any new people who've just come across what I'm doing at this moment. I tend to look out for like an event that I know will be very big in a far window of time. And then I'll focus on, you know, it's kind of like when you're developing goals in life, you always want to have a stretch goal. And then you're going to have little goals that set you towards that bigger goal, right? So this is kind of my way of tracking the market. And whatever they come out with week to week on the mainstream financial media channels, or even in social media, right? Because now we have influencers, we have BitBoy, we have Crypto, we have, and no, I'm not trying to throw any shade at these guys. I'm just saying that they played a huge role in the 2020 to 2022 market phase, because they were the ones attracting in all the fresh meat, right? It wasn't me. I wasn't attracting in anyone new. When I was making my channel, these guys already had hundreds of thousands of followers, and they were putting out 3 videos a day. So they are like the Kim Kardashian of cryptocurrency. Everything they do, the eyes are on them. The eyes that come to us are very limited, but wiser eyes, right? And that's what matters to me and you, is totally different agenda and goal, perhaps, of
Yeah.
somebody
Well,
like
we're
a
the
BitBoy.
counterculture. We're the counter narrative. Like I got all my followers based on people that were so tired of the same old, you know, story. It's basically just the same old story. All these
100%.
influencers, they'll tell you the same
That's why I
thing.
made my channel.
Yeah, I made my channel because it was starting to become trendy to shit on Hex. And I was like, I can't let these guys get away with what shitting on what I think is going to be the top performing asset of the year. Like I hated to see that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly what you should do, and I think that's a pivot into a bigger idea for people, to influence people on being, you know, serving their purpose. Like this is your purpose. You've locked into it, and it's brought you this attention. It's brought you, you know, the products that you're able to sell, and anything that goes on in your life. So, I mean, that is what it is. You have to find something that's an issue, and you have to solve it, and then you have to show the world how you solved it, and then that's how all business works. That's how all spread of information eventually gets, you know, a loyal following to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you just have that influence, kind of like I'm sad, I'm happy, and then their whole following is sad and happy whenever they are, you know.
Yeah, we're not those type of guys that are going to shill you the coin of the week or the coin of the month. We have a mission and we have a greater vision for things. Mine is, hey guys, we have trustless yield over here. Huge innovation. Since Bitcoin is one of the biggest ones, PulseChain, horizontal scaling of Ethereum, huge innovation. I'm here to tell you about all that stuff because I think that bull or bear market, as long as we're adopting at a steady rate and you have the long-term vision to hold and dollar cost average through this, I know it's a really rough cycle. It's a really rough bear market, but the money goes from the hands of the impatient into the patient. And those that see the bigger picture, that all onboarding is good, it's a net positive if you have a long enough time horizon, those people are going to be rewarded.
100%. I mean, this is a great time to pay attention to the fact that everyone else isn't paying attention. Like that's how life works. Like when you're focused on everything at the right time, and while people are distracted or people are becoming like, here's what I tell people all the time about investing. You want to get really, really focused when there's blood or boredom.
Yep,
When people are
I can sense that.
we're about to enter the boredom phase again. Like we were boring for like 200 days, and then we took this huge drop, and this is all part of the ritual. But now we're about to we're about to enter boredom again, guys. Like
what about anger?
When we,
didn't we just have anger? I just
think
had an
we
anger
have.
phase.
I think we have more anger when we're at all-time highs and we make that first initial drop, because that's like taking the wind out of people. It's like when you're on it's like when you go over the other side of the roller coaster and you're like fucking screaming, you know, that's kind of that energy. But now you got to think it's been 150 to 200 days of, these are like the last of the Mohicans, you know, like if you've been paying attention to crypto for the last 3 months, 4 months, right? You're like kind of the rarest of the rare of
Dude,
the
if you're
retail
still here,
investors.
you are going to be so battle hardened and forged in fire. I mean, if you're still here, you're basically unstoppable. Just don't be like that dolphin that sold on the full moon yesterday. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I completely agree. And I think just to share the words of wisdom, like, yes, right now it's bloody, but like it's about to get boring. And when it gets boring is a beautiful time to start buying. Because think about this, right? Like, so many people yesterday during the first move, they started trying to buy, and then the exchanges get weird. Then the exchanges shut down. Then the exchanges have maintenance. Then the exchange won't accept your fucking card. Then the exchange goes to zero because it goes bankrupt. Like,
Mm,
let this all subside, guys. Like, let the fucking volcano spew out its lava, and then I want you to like explore the new lands after that lava has hardened, and you're going to be able to make a much better move in this market. So if you're somebody who's like waiting around for when waters above is going to invest, like, that's not how you should be moving right now, because just know that I'm super patient. Like, my
mhm.
patience is like Yoda level. You know, like,
Same, dude.
I've studied this market more than anyone. Like, I put in 14 to 16 hours on these charts and on these markets and trading every single fucking day for almost a
Yeah.
year before I even put a mic in front of my face.
And we
So
teach
like
people how
I
to think too. We teach people to fish so they can fish for a lifetime. You know, it's not, you should by no means ever just copy what we do. We're telling you how to withstand this psychologically.
Well, you know what's funny too is like when I used to tell people every single move I made, like vocally, I would get shit on for it. Like when I sold my XRP at $1.40 and $1.50 and $1.60, I was getting shit from the XRP army for selling because they were like, "You're wrong. It's going to go higher. It's going to go higher. It's going to go." No, it never went higher. I sold at the best time, and then I rebought back in at the best time, and then I sold again at the best time. You want to know why I'm doing that? Because I'm not fucking emotional like you are. You know, like, that's what I would tell people. Like, you're emotional and you're learning everything that you learn based off of someone else's theories. And I'm the one putting in the work for building my own theory. So if I'm wrong, I could at least look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, I'm wrong. Now, that was a great decision, because when you fail or when you have a mishap, that's a great learning experience. Then you refine, you go back to the drawing board and you say, okay, this is what I'm going to work on. I'm not sitting here waiting for a savior, and I'm not teaching people to have that savior complex with me. Like, as you said, it's like teaching people how to fish. Like, really what's going to be such a game changer about communities like this, these very like unique communities, is it's going to be a team of tens of thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands of self-reliant investors.
Or self-sovereign individuals. I mean, that's the only way to go forward. Everybody's fighting for your attention. They're screaming at the top of their lungs about why you should be scared about this or that this week and what you should be buying this week or selling that week. They want to control your destiny. So if you don't have control over your autonomy as a man or woman, you're going to fall for someone else's plan.
This is a very interesting time for sure. How has everybody been doing in your community regarding this bigger correction? I know that the hex. I'll say one thing. Somebody actually, I don't know if I told you about this, but now that I'm remembering it, somebody that's close to me sent me a video of you talking with Richard Hart and like two other people, of you,
Yeah.
like literally you talking, and you brought up my name to them in it. And then somebody talked about something regarding the Shemitah, and then everyone started like chuckling and laughing, and I kind of
Yeah.
got a vibe that they were like making fun of me, like trolling me. But it's really funny too that I get a lot of that going on in the background of people who don't know my work. Like, they don't actually know what I do, right? Because it's too much. It's too much new. It's too novel to them to have all of
Yeah.
this information tied in. So it's
Well, look,
easy. Like, the first initial reaction is like confusion, and perhaps that comes with that sort of energy. And anyways, I appreciate you giving the shout out, especially while Richard was there. And I have a feeling that Richard knows who I am now. Like, I get this kind of inkling that he's aware of my work. He doesn't actually know what I do, but he's aware of my work. But like,
yeah, yeah.
if people in these communities would have less of that initial knee jerk reaction to like initially disregard something, and maybe give it the energy of like, oh, this is interesting, this is curious, this is something I don't know about, this is something that I could try giving a chance. um I think that's where we're going to see a lot of change in our world, of like perspective and people just becoming a lot better at handling whatever's to come. Because I've seen a lot of the hex community over the past couple weeks, not as much as you have, of course, but a lot of them have been really like chaotic, right? And they're doing it because of price action. But the people that are in my community that are coming from your like viewership, that are in the hex community because they know of my work and they know of what I do, it's like they weren't surprised at all. You
Well,
know,
yeah,
like
like when
they're
you have such a high such a large community, you can't help but listen to the vocal minorities sometimes. And to that, or to you in particular, I would say all publicity is good publicity. I mean, it really, really is. And the people will learn
Oh yeah,
things when
yeah,
when
for
they're
me,
ready,
for
for it.
sure.
I mean,
100%.
I'm still
I
not
was
ready for some of
actually
the go ahead.
I was just grateful for the fact that I was brought up in that conversation at all. Like, if people want to make fun or call what I do any negative, like, I don't give a shit because
Oh yeah.
I know that what I do is legit. You know,
Oh, I
like,
handle personal attacks for a living, bro. That's the industry that
yeah,
I'm in. That's what I signed
yeah,
up
yeah.
for.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
used to that. So I was actually just gonna say thank you for bringing me up, and you know, I got a good energy from you. Of course, that's why we're still here connected with each other.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah,
could tell
building
that.
bridges and messages of unity, and I think your message of just self-sovereignty, right? Like take responsibility for yourself. That's something we've been preaching since day one. And you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, and it just helps to not alienate everybody else, right? So let's not.
Yeah,
I wish
a
that the
hundred
vocal
percent.
minority didn't
Because
speak so loudly, but if you're listening and you're on or if you might have been one of those guys on Twitter, just consider that Twitter is a public forum. You know what? Your actions actually do have consequences, good or bad. And your language creates the reality around you, whether you like it or not. So, what you do is actually important. You might not think that you're important, but you have a lot more power than I think people realize.
100%. Like, what I think is that if you become more self-sufficient and develop your own like mindset around this that's catered towards you, and you make your investment decisions based off of your, you know, research, then you're not going to get mad at Richard Hart when the fucking price goes down on the coin. That's what a lot of like unsophisticated people are doing. They get like mad at the people that are tied to, you know, like what's going down with Celsius, or what's going down with any of these companies, you know, with Terra Luna. Like, every time that something happens like that, all the energy and all the negativity and hate goes towards these people who are making, you know, but like, you gotta understand that there's so much going on here. There's so much at play, you
I
know?
like that
Like,
word, understand. I mean, a lot of times people do project what they're going through on other people, myself included. When I get angry, I'm not enjoyable to be around at all. I need to cool off, come back, and take a level-headed approach and remind myself that, we're all here to unite each other. Not to get all kumbaya or anything, but it is interesting with the timing of everything, right? Blood moon, rare eclipse lunar event, and that's the day that there's heavy hex FUD. But luckily, it's even you could say it was eclipsed. The hex FUD was eclipsed by the Binance FTX FUD in its own way, which I'm actually thankful for because it gives us something else to focus on, and it gives the peanut gallery something else to chirp about on the little bird app. You know what I mean? And at the end of the
yeah.
day, I don't think FTX is going to fail. I think it's going to get bought out by one company or another. It might even be a good opportunity for the JP Morgans and Goldman Sachs of the world to swoop in
I
and
I literally said this. I said this over a year ago. Anyone who follows my live streams and knows about what I've been giving my projections on with the cryptocurrency exchanges, I said expect a merger like we got a merger with the banking system in 2007, 2008. It's the same fucking thing. Okay. All these companies are bullshit, anyways, and they were all owned by the same conglomerates, anyways. They were all given money to start up from the same places that they were eventually just going to be swallowed by. It's the same thing as banking. Now, they aren't disclosing this because they're able to hide what I just said anyways, but the aftermath of it will be what you just said, and a thing that I shared over a year ago. We're going to see companies like Coinbase, Binance, and maybe some other few swallow up some, and then we'll see an even bigger institution like JP Morgan or Bank of America. They'll come in and start to do what they do best because they have a direct injection from the Federal Reserve and the central banks. So the central banks own it all. They're not able to show, they can't tell you this, but of course, who's on bankroll, right? Like, everyone's coming on the same bankroll eventually. When you get to the level of like institutional banks, they're all just funneled with money from the central banks. And then those commercial banks are the ones that are dealing directly with all these exchanges. You know what I mean? So it's all going to come back to that at the end of the day anyways. Like, when they fail, that's going to be the backup plan.
yeah, and we know the BlackRocks of the world are in bed with the Coinbases, and it's kind of a game of, hey,
Yeah,
if you play
exactly.
nicely with the powers that be, we won't fuck with you. And I I don't know if this is a rumor or not, but I've heard Citadel may or may not allegedly was behind the transaction that allowed Luna to be shorted. So it's the existing traditional financial structures that are realizing all the weaknesses in the crypto ecosystem. And a lot of these companies are making it easy for them to be taken down because they're way over leveraged in crazy, risky, novel DeFi protocols. And
Yeah.
they're meddling with customers' funds, and they're just not at the same
And
level of.
most of these investors they have weak hands. So the investors aren't going to keep it up. The investors are going to start to panic sell.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's kind of coming back to what you said before about HEX, and like a positive note on it is the fact that even when these whales do come in and put in big, big short order, it's still just absorption effect anyways. Like it just gets bought back up. So there's clearly people out. Well, it's that was my short vision. My bigger vision was the coin needed to have a huge correction. It needed to have a 95% correction. If people disagree with me on that, then just go back to the first time I talked about HEX when I was saying the same thing. And here we are. We've seen this correction. It's not my opinion. It's just cryptos that do such an amazing bull run. They're eventually going to have a moment where they need to come back to reality. And this is it coming back to reality. It's not negative on the community. It's none of that. It's just like people need to take profits, and that's how it works. And the unsophisticated players on the team are going to leave, and they're going to go join some other cult. And the people that are here for the long run, like, they're going to diversify accordingly. They're going to build a stronger plan from cycle to cycle, and they're going to refine where they're at, and they're going to continue to grow along with the entire asset class. Like, that's the beauty of all of this, is like, you as a person, as an individual, you get to grow with these technologies. Like, you actually have an opportunity to refine in the process. But in order to do that, you might need to stay away from the over exaggerated, kind of pulling on your heartstrings type nonsense that comes out.
And to that point, I say, really, guys, be careful. Twitter is a sadness and anxiety machine. It chews you up and it spits you out. And next thing you know, you wasted 2 hours scrolling through a bunch of opinions of nobodies. It's the hive mind of the internet, right? Elon Musk pointed out that there are billions of bidirectional interactions on Twitter per day, which is great in one sense of we can actually get to the truth, especially maybe now that with the change of power and Elon Musk taking over, maybe Twitter will become the hive mind truth engine that we want it to be. But on the other hand, if you're a human being, and we weren't designed to take into consideration this many opinions and this much chaos, and so it's just like it's breaking down the actual fabric of our brains. And that brings me to another point too of just crypto in general. Being in this game, you really got to watch your mental health.
Sorry, you kind of cut out for me for a second.
Oh, okay, where was I? I was just saying that you really got to watch your mental health in crypto, and you got to pay attention to your brain, and watch out for things like social media, because we're not designed to take in and absorb this much information and this many opinions. And even cryptocurrency itself as an asset class. Think about what people talk about all day in cryptocurrency, right? They talk about the past price performance, and then we look to the past in order to predict the future. So we're always focused on where the price was and where the price is going. We're never focused on the present moment. Now, they say, depression is an obsession with the past and anxiety is a preoccupation with the future. That, I think, is the infection that's gotten into the mental health of so many people during this bear market especially. And so we really need to watch and try to bring it back to the present moment, focus on what's going on now. What can you do to take control over your own life and your own actions, and not be so obsessed on either how much money you made or lost, or being uncertain about the future, because you're never going to get there. The only thing you can do is look to trends and cycles to try to help predict, to try to help your path. But, I think that's the whole preoccupation with why we see so much unrest in crypto specifically.
Yeah, well, think like I was speaking with somebody, because I guess because of my platform, I have the luxury of connecting with some really successful people, and somebody that was like a mindset coach reached out to me for a specific thing that they wanted to know about, and they were telling me about their clients, and some of their clients that they had were actually successful, like crypto investors from the last cycle who made millions. Like some of their clients making tens of millions, and they all have the same story, which is they're still weak-minded, have limiting beliefs. They have a difficulty picking up women or developing relationships. Their family structure has not gotten any better because of their new wealth. And it's because they don't actually care about life. All they care about is the yesterdays and tomorrows. They don't live an actual life. They don't have a purpose. So this is really damaging to the being, to the sense of being, and that will damage your self-esteem. And this is going to damage the way that you communicate with people and with ultimately yourself. You know, again, not to get like hippy dippy, but like, so there's a darkness where you're alone, and when you're alone you have the opportunity to like self-analyze. And if you start to dig deeper into that loneliness, and of course you're going to want to numb it. So how do you numb it? You numb it with fucking Twitter, you
Hmm.
numb it with food, you numb it with porn, you numb it with whatever nonsense.
Yeah,
So the world is highly emotional but with very little feeling. That's a very key thing that I've noticed with the clients that I have, the people that I work with. And I had this really illuminating conversation with this person, and it kind of helped me because now it helped me refine my words that I speak for people now to move into the next run. Because when we have that next move in the market that's positive, that bull run that we all speak on, I want to know that I'm a leader of a community of people that when they get that money, now they're going to know what to do with the money, and they're going to have a strong, like, their soul is going to still be intact during that whole process. Not just a bunch of fucking nerds with $10 million who don't know what to fucking do with the money.
dude. I'm so
Like I
glad you
want
said that.
winner, I want winners. I want winners on my side. And I say this quite often. I speak to the ears of leadership. Like I'm not here to be a leader. I know I am a leader, but I want to speak to the ears of leadership, because that's what makes a real strong community that's able to actually work together and build. So I really want more content creators to talk about this mindset stuff, because it's going to be the thing that allows us, when we get money or when we get the dream job or the create the business that starts to become successful, or find the woman of your dreams, whatever it is, like you can maintain that on a day-to-day basis and you could enjoy the present moment. So many people are doing things based on outcomes. They're not actually doing it to feel.
That's great, man. And yeah, the emotion without a feeling is kind of just a waste of energy into the ether. And I notice it in my own experience too. And a lot of people, you don't just want a bunch of rich nerds because that's just going to lead to, we're seeing this. We've seen a lot of people uh, fly too close to the sun, as they say, by they've made all this money in crypto, whether it's hex or other coins, and then we see their demise, whether it's a public mental breakdown or they get into trouble financially because they're not
Yeah.
ready for that kind of wealth. And I've experienced it in my own life. I've had life events happen on that massive run up that have taught me a lot of experiential knowledge that luckily I was kind of ready for the amount of wealth that I accrued, but I did go over the top at times, in my personal life, and I've learned to react a little bit better, take things back to square one. It's funny you even
Yeah.
talk about mindset because I was just filming new content for my course based on new mindset, techniques I've learned. And, you know, quality over quantity when it comes to community members. I think one thing I've learned, especially during this bull and bear market, this last cycle, is that when we're getting people into our respective communities, I mean, we can have differences of opinion on some things, but not all community members are equal. And so I'd rather have one real quality guy, one new leader, strong, mentally strong individual on my team than 10 weak minded plebs, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. And because really, if you're not ready for investing in the first place, you really shouldn't even be here. And I think a lot of people, they wanted that moonshot because they hated their life and they just wanted that. They thought money would fill a gaping void inside their personal life. And now that
Yeah.
they have it, it's like they're going off their rocker a little bit. And now we're kind of seeing who's
Yeah,
ready for
it's
that.
like that. It's like, if this resonates with people, listen to that new Kendrick Lamar song that started off his new album. It's called "United in Grief," and he literally talks about how like every time that he felt sad or felt like this sense of loneliness, he thought he would just like buy a new car, or, do
Yeah.
something with his money, and like it never did shit for him. If anything, it even made him like in a worse state of health and. But it's funny that you bring this up, because that was a motivating factor about 4 or 5 months ago when I was working on my last course that I put out, which was a non-crypto course. And it really surprised people because they were like, what do I wasn't anticipating you to come out with something like this. But I was really, the motivation behind it was like, well, if you guys know all about charts and building portfolios and investment thesis and how to like make all these moves with money, but you're still distracted and your attention is spread over 12 different topics, and you have no focus and no sense of purpose, and you're really like, wherever you're at with your bank account, like you're never going to really heal too much about life until you actually kind of confront these modes of being that you operate at, you know? And for me, the concept of having quality members comes down to whoever's creating and whoever's the voice of the community needs to speak straight. So for me, like that combination of mindset coaching that I have with my expansion mastermind that I released, as well as just being super spicy with the delivery of my words, you know, like just unapologetically genuine with everything that I say, regardless if it stings somebody, like regardless if it hurts them, like they know that it's coming from a space of love, you know? I'm just like that uncle that like has been through the war and it's just like trying to tell you like, you
Yeah.
know, I get it. Like whatever pain you feel, like I know, I feel you, but like you're going to need to pick yourself up, look in the mirror, and just get to work. Like the
Well,
only
dude,
way
I
to
want to
change
ask
your
you
life is for
about
you to change your life.
yeah, and I want to ask you about your experience now that you mention it. I've been in crypto since 2015, almost 8 years at this point. It's longer than half of the
Wow.
lifespan of crypto, but I know you've got more experience not only in crypto but other aspects of life. Can you go into like what was life before crypto for you?
No, actually, you have way more experience with me in crypto. I got into crypto as an investor just in like 2020, but I
Wow.
started studying crypto in 2017 into 2018, and then I started actually developing like my own methodology and everything in the 2019, 2020 phase. But I waited because I studied the charts first, and I knew that the market like had some shit to figure out. So going to like where I stand on everything before that, it was, oh man, many years of studying things like mythology and studying, you know, just esoterica in general, getting deep into some ideas that were bringing together the reason why our world was operating the way that it was. Like, why is our world economically, or, you know, from the education system? Like, I started actually putting that all together, and it allowed me to get into crypto in a way that it made so much sense to me how to become a true, like a real investor and everything. Like, so I don't know, I don't want to jump around too much, but basically I spent a lot of time being alone and just studying and looking into the connections behind why humanity was the way they are. Why do we have like this hive mind type, you know, society? Why
Mhm.
do a very few group of people seek freedom? Why are the ones that seek freedom outcasted and hated by the society? Why are we, you know, and I think seeing the pandemic unfold, it proved so much of what I already felt deep down inside, like how docile and quick people are to just pivot to whatever their television screen tells them, and how weak they are when a little bit of power gets enforced onto them, like the slightest bit of power.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
really transformed my way of communicating with people. I became quite like, you know, I don't know if like a loner is a good word, but I just started to really like be more in my own lane. I started to disconnect myself from a lot of people who I thought were friends, people who I thought were actually here to be a part of my growth. And that chipping away and trimming the fat, it allowed this explosive amount of focus for me to look into, you know, businesses. So then I started getting into business a lot because I wanted to leave the workplace. Like I just couldn't work for other people. I could not fucking do it. I used to tell
yeah.
my bosses, after my bosses would compliment me for whatever, because I was always like a leader. I was always able to get promotions really quick. I would tell them that, like, you know, I'm the worst worker because even though I'm good at this, I don't enjoy this role. Like I don't know how long I could be here. And I would always say that to myself. And I noticed that I was kind of like selling myself short of that opportunity to do something on my own. And one day I just kind of like had a breakdown and I said, okay, I need to quit. It's funny. I was actually walking down the street and I saw some spray paint on the wall that said, quit your job.
I can get on board with that one. Hell
So
yeah.
the next day I went into work and I put in my 2 weeks and my boss was like, actually, we don't need you for another 2 weeks. We only need you for like two more shifts. And I got so happy when he said that. Like the feeling inside of me was so, it felt like I was being let out of a cage. And it was an amazing job, by the way. Like nothing against him, nothing against the business.
Mhm.
It was just like my soul needed to do my own thing. But it wasn't fucking easy. You know, like when I think about my trials and tribulations of being an entrepreneur, holy shit, like it
Yeah.
is a Oh my God. And no one wants to help you. Like very few
No,
people
you're an
actually
outcast
want
if
to.
you do. If you try, I mean, it's like crabs in a bucket. They try to pull you back down. It's like tall poppy syndrome. If one of the poppies grows too high, they'll try to trim them back to equal length. It's weird how similar your story is to mine because I quit my, my job about a year ago today, and that feeling of just your soul being free at that core foundational level, it's easier said than done. But once it happens, you never want to go back. You never want to go back because society, you know, it's all about placing boundaries between I'm this and you're that, and this is my role and this is your role. And yeah, I had a great tech job, and it was a good company with good people, but something about just being caged in like that just did not sit well. Gave me a lot of cognitive dissonance, and I just knew it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. That's what crypto has to offer people, is a way out.
It's so interesting. Like, it's such an interesting thing that it depends on where you stand on it all. Like, if you're here to be an investor, it's not a way out necessarily. If you're here to actually, create your own thing and bring something new to the world, or leverage on something to bring something that's unique to the world, at least, then there's an opportunity for freedom. But I feel like too many people in the internet space are like holding themselves back from being creative, so they're just being a news anchor.
Hmm.
That's all they are, is like an updater. And like
Mm-hmm.
I knew very early on that like I don't have the energy to be a news anchor. Like I need to create stuff. I need to bring something to this world that is unique, and I already had all that background, and
Mm-hmm.
it allowed me to kind of like design something. And it was really weird story actually, because I was working with private clients and kind of keeping off of socials for personal reasons, like more for like my own mental health. And these were the people that were like, no, you got to share this course with the world, you got to make YouTube videos. Like literally private clients of mine were like pushing me to do the YouTube thing. And I was a little bit like resilient. Like at first I was like, I don't know, man. Like it wasn't because I couldn't deal with people on the internet. It was that I didn't think it would resonate with people. And that was a limiting belief. That was something that I obviously got proven wrong with. I'm in a very niche space because I think I created something that the world has never seen before, like combining gematria and numerology and all of this with TA. It's a very, very unique thing. And I'm not taking any credit for it because I was influenced by all the people that came before me. I just was the one to package it and to share it and to do it in this way. Right. But ultimately, that's why I have so much great gratitude and like love and appreciation for everyone that follows what I do, because if they would have saw how I was initially, I was just like super silent and kind of kept to myself. And it took me some time to break through and to be the way that I am on a personal level and bring that way of talking to the internet world.
I love that. And that can be a call to action too for anybody that has been thinking about getting online. You got your own unique take on everything. You don't have to do exactly what I do or what Waters does or what, your favorite YouTuber does. You can put your own twist on it, and you have something to offer the world, whether you think you do or not. Um, if anything, maybe crypto just affords you the time to even be able to think about that stuff, because so many people are wrapped up in these habit loops of their 9 to 5 rat race. They come home, they got kids and all this stuff. They don't even have time to think about what would they really like their impact to be on the world. What message do they actually have? So I think that's
Dude,
pretty.
I love that we're talking about this, because the number one thing that I'm focused on right now, like so my expansion mastermind, it has 9 chapters, but I released it with 7. And the last chapter was focused predominantly on health, like on consuming, exercise, all those sorts of things. But anyways, the chapter 8 is called skills, and it's really, really like dialed into that concept of like how to become more effective at either refining a skill you already have that you're interested in, starting new skills, or all of the things regarding that. But now that you bring this up, it reminds me that my mode of operation lately with everyone that I speak to and everyone that's coming my way, and then it also aligns with a lot of the questions I've been receiving from people, is like, how do I do my own thing? How do I become a content creator? How do I share something to the world? How do I start a business? So like for me personally, my mission statement is just help people with that. Like, how do I help people get to where I am with this, but they do it in their own unique way? And I just help them with the mindset. I help them with the removal of limiting beliefs. I help them, it's not like it's not motivation, because that's all bullshit anyways. It's about just
Mhm.
remembering what you're capable of, and to actually remove the distractions that are making you unable to actualize your potential. Like the ceiling of potential you have is not only about limiting beliefs, but it's about the way you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
So I have so many people that come to me that are like, dude, like you've inspired me to do this, you've inspired me to do that, but like I just feel like I would be copying you. I feel like I'd be, and I'm like, stop worrying about like when I play guitar, or I'll say it like this because I'm a musician, right? But like when I hear Jimi Hendrix play guitar, I know the difference between somebody who's covering him and Jimmy. I know when Jimmy's playing. So be like Jimmy. Be so fucking unique and genuine with what you do that there is no sense of copying. It's all, we're all being influenced. Like before Jimmy, we had, you know, Robert Johnson. We had, of course, all these people. But like when I do what I do, the reason why it's so unique is because I'm not getting too caught up in all of the other content that surrounds me. And if I notice that I'm being overly influenced by it, I remove myself from it. But the whole copying thing and the whole worrying about if you're going to be too much like something, or the feeling that you're not going to bring something that's good enough, or perhaps you feel like you'll be false, like you're not going to give something that's truth. All of that is like a worry. It's unnecessary fears, and just do. Because once you start up that fucking microphone and press record, there is it's impossible for you to mimic. Honestly, like it'll be impossible. Once your voice and your, you know, lexicon and your way of describing stuff, like what you did before when you were talking about Hex, you just blasted through a whole, like with no pauses. You sounded like you worked for Hex.
I'm a Hexpert.
Like,
yeah,
seriously. No, you're seriously, like to the point where like, you know, you should be working for them. It was just
good thing it's not a company.
No, I'm just, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
no, I'm just, yeah.
If you were to do what you just did with Lamborghini, your ass would be moving to fucking, you know, Bologna next week. Cause like that type of energy, even if you're talking about something else, you do it with a level that is just so seamless, and you could tell there's passion there. And but it's your unique take. Like nobody's going to be able to mimic that, and that's going to affect people. That's going to influence others. That's going to make people vibe with you. It's what creates resonation. So
Yeah,
I don't know, like I just want people to use this time right now, especially while the market is down, to tap into some of that energy. Like whilst the rest of the world is getting depressed and feeling anxious and negative about whatever's going on. And think about it. The reason they call it the depression and they tie it to finances is because that's what it does to people. So when energy gets relinquished by the masses, that energy has to go somewhere else. So why not you just take it? It's free. It's out there in the ether for you to grab at any fucking minute.
Yeah, dude. And that's great. Like the psychological stuff, it's great. You need to take care of your brain. Don't get wrapped up in the past or the future. You know, that's depression and anxiety. That's the definition. But that's all we do in crypto is we just talk about charts, or not we, but some YouTubers out there. Be careful who you listen to, because if all you're doing is watching a 10-minute video of some guy looking at a chart, and at the end of the video he says, well, because of this, this, and this, the price could go up, down, or sideways. That's the same video over and over, and you're just like a rat brain, you know, coming back to the feeding trough. But for some tangible advice, just I'm more of a physical, fundamental, like what can I do right now? The real simple trifecta for anybody out there: eat, sleep, and exercise. It sounds so rudimentary, but take a good look at your life during the bear market. There's chaos all around you. Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? Are you eating normal foods that are healthy for your own unique biome? And are you exercising? Are you getting your heart rate up for 5 or 10 minutes a day? That's all it even takes. Just go for a little run, a little jog, lift some weights. You will be shocked. It is night and day. Eat, sleep, and exercise are like some of the most important things you could do. You got to take care of the meat. Take care of your meat vehicle when you're moving through life. Okay, guys?
You call it a meat vehicle.
Yeah. You gotta.
I love that.
Mean, it's like you have a car and you're just running it into the ground, and then you wonder why you feel like shit all the time.
It's funny because you combine two things that I say. Like I always call this like a meat suit, the body, and I always call the body a rental vehicle. So it's just funny how you combine. Yeah, you combine that. That's hilarious. No, that's so true. And like if I could add one thing to that, is take risks.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hey, if you're in crypto, like you're taking a risk. Information is asymmetric. So what some people perceive as way too risky to even touch, with the right information on your side, you can perceive it as too risky to sit back and do nothing. That's how I feel about crypto. It's too risky not to touch it because the upside potential is almost infinite. But it just depends on, you got to educate yourself. You are your own most valuable asset because you only have one body, one life. invest in yourself, and then you'll be on the other side of that information asymmetry, and you could see that crypto's not going anywhere, that we're going to be here for the next 15 years. We're laddered all the way out. Cycles come back. We're on a particularly volatile peak time in history that happened to land on a full blood moon. Things are crumbling all around us. And
Coincidentally.
How crazy is that? I mean,
it's not crazy. It's not crazy for me, but you know, like,
I feel like I want you to just end on some kind of a note. Tell us something we don't know about the cycles that you're seeing, the cyclical nature of time, and where you see things maybe going, and why.
Yeah, of course. So one thing that could be some words of wisdom is with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin matters because if Bitcoin keels over, we're going to see everything else keel over. Bitcoin is kind of in that energy at this moment. And I do think that we'll probably bottom, we'll probably bottom out in the crypto market sometime by very early January. Like if I had to give an exact date, it would be the full moon of January, but that is the crypto market. So Bitcoin could have already bottomed out this week, and we could see that residual energy enter the altcoins, and there's just a slow bleed. You know what I mean? So it will feel fast if you like are in 3 months from now, but like when you're living through it, we all know crypto trades 24/7. So it's going to be every day, every moment, especially if you're somebody who's very active. Between now and January full moon is how many days, right? Like 60, 70 days. So it's going to take some time, especially since we're just getting this drop initially to happen now. Now, what else matters a lot, if you want to project this out, I won't go any further than this, but there's a solar eclipse in April of 2023, followed shortly after with a lunar eclipse in May. This May eclipse, like, this is important, guys, because this is going to be a potential opportunity to de-risk positions that you're starting to build now. This is like me giving you the secret sauce. You know, it's the same thing I did when I talked about this lunar eclipse being a correction. It's the same thing I did when I told everyone the solar eclipse in October would be bullish. You know, it's all just kind of part of this energy that comes along with these bigger moon cycles. So you have the new moon is a bullish energy, full moon is a bearish energy, but an eclipse is a much more amplified version of that. So I hope that helps people out. But when we look at Bitcoin historically, we're seeing a common theme. All of our all-time highs are typically in Q4 or into the start of Q1, and all of our all-time lows are in Q4 or the start of Q1. So that basically just gives us a lot of like look at what's happening with Bitcoin. It just hit an all-time high 1 year ago. We're about to enter the 1 year anniversary from Bitcoin hitting 69,000. That'll be tomorrow. So wouldn't it be weird if we hit the low, instead of hitting the all-time high on November 10th, we go to the all-time low in this cycle tomorrow, and then we start to see recovery? But that does not mean that it's over for the altcoins. The altcoins have so much room to go. Like it will be unbelievable for people, but we haven't even seen that many coins go to zero yet. Like we still have a lot of shit coins that just need to get wiped away. And the market moves in stages, right? Like when we saw Bitcoin hit an all-time high, then we have an alt season, then we have a shitcoin season. It happens the same way in reverse. So there's going to be isolated incidences. Like isolation, what I mean is like the ISO 222 coins, like things like XRP, XLM, XDC. Those are isolated because they haven't made price discovery since the last bull run. Something like HEX, it's already done an insane bull run, like magnificent. And then it's had a huge 95% correction. So a similarity between HEX would be like a coin like Theta, just an amazing fucking bull run and a huge correction. And those coins are kind of linked together in that regard. So I'm trying to help give a holistic answer, but I think we should be seeing a bottom come into the market by full moon January for most of the cryptocurrencies. And then, you know, by like about March, we should be seeing that recovery. And when crypto recovers, guys, it's quick. It's quick. It could be 30 days straight of just like, you know, 300% gains to the upside. So what we can be seeing happen for a coin like HEX is about a 400 to 600% move from all-time low in this cycle up to the next automatic rally peak, which could happen in about June, maybe July.
Wow. Awesome. You heard it here, guys. Bear market's over in January, full moon. Get ready for that. And also,
and it's gonna one last thing to say is that I'm talking about cryptocurrency. If I'm talking about the stock market, the S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow can take up till September to November of 2023 to bottom. So that means that 1 year from today, we can just be getting in the bottom for the stock market, but the stock market takes longer. Okay. So if that's going to take that long, you could think about all this bullshit tech companies like phantom companies that have no working technology. We're just pumped up by the Fed injecting liquidity into the markets. Like that stuff is going to get swallowed up. And so all I'm just trying to say is that crypto moves quick. So if we're in January and you're still seeing the the stock market go down, just remember that I was very articulate with the differences. Crypto moves faster, it recovers faster, it crashes faster.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And keep your eyes out, guys. 2023, April and May, eclipses. Full moon, good. No. Full moon, bad. New moon, good.
Yeah. Buy full moons, sell new moons.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I think everybody loved it. We're at an hour 10. Thank you all, 450 of you guys, for coming by. Make sure you like and subscribe, not only to me. I've got a Patreon too if you want to talk more one-on-one, talk strategy. But Waters Above, all of his course stuff, all of his Patreon stuff is in the description below. Thank you so much for coming, guys. Keep cool, stay calm during the bear market. Everything's going to be okay. I'll see you guys on the next video.